morning. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. Sorry about that. You know, we have to play the production role here. So, Gasho, good morning. Happy New Year, everyone. We are so grateful to have a guest speaker as the first speaker of the year at Atlanta Soto Zen Center. So let me just do a quick introduction for Kaikyo Sensei. Kaikyo Sensei Barbara Lutz has been a Dharma successor of the vice added Kogo Carnegus in the Yamaroshi tradition since 2020. After her teacher Kaikyo Roby died after a serious illness. The first ordination took place in 2010 by El Tenru Tendril in Berlin, in Sawaki Dachumuni's tradition. She spent 2 practice angos in Japan and 1 practice ango in Ramonji, Iowa, under the direction of Shokin Bunko Roshi. She also received part of her overall training from the Dio Vintage Roshi at Mount Equity, Pennsylvania, USA. Kaikyo translates Buddhist texts from American into German. As a doctor of education system, as a family therapist and psychotherapist, an additional qualification in Boba. I'm sorry, Kaikyo Sensei, please, correct my pronunciation as you will. In the Vinyasa Yoga. Sensei has worked in a wide variety of areas, both employed in large clinics and practice as well as independently. She graduated at Hanover University of Applied Sciences in a course in psychology and qualification to support the critically ill and dying with special consideration to HIV. She is familiar with accompanying children and adults with limited expectancy in their relatives and in the areas of early intervention of HIV/AIDS and working with young prisoners as well as advising multicultural partnerships. Sensei is the honorary director of the Foundation of Spectre Talent and Disability, which is also dedicated to promoting a very talented children and young adolescents who live in physical and sensory disability. She is also married and has 2 children. So without further ado, Sensei Kyoku, Barbara Lutz is going to be speaking today. I'm going to let her talk about what she's going to be speaking today. But please just welcome her with a big gasho and Happy New Year. Thank you so much, Sensei, for joining us. Let me put the spotlight on.
Okay, I start?
Yes, you start. You're good.
I start. Okay. Yes. Hello from Europe, Hanover. My context is I'm sitting here right in Hanover. It's already getting evening. And Hanover is a place in the middle of northern Germany, 150 kilometers from Hamburg. And there the story started and at the moment found its temporary stop. I'm very grateful, and it's a real gift for me that you invited me with a special wish that I talk about the texts of Kaikyo Sara Roby, a Dharma successor of Okumura Roshi. So I don't expect you all to have this little booklet, and I will only quote once out of it, but then talk about it. I think it's a great mean to talk also about the difference between European and American Soto Zen. I have one suggestion. We are such a nice group. So if you would like to interrupt me at any point, then do this with pleasure. You are welcome. I have here a pencil and something to write, so I can write down where I stopped and we can handle your questions and then I continue. There is no problem. I don't have to talk the whole time, and at the end we have questions and answers.
Sensei, what I'll do, if I see a hand raised, I will make sure you can't see them, everyone, but I'll make sure your questions are, you get your questions.
Yeah, okay, you raise your hands. Okay, that's great. Yes. I don't hear you very clearly. There's a lot of echo in it. So I hope you can understand me without echo.
Yep, I can. It's probably because there's a couple of mics in the window. So,
okay, okay, yes. To understand those texts from Kaikyo Sara Roby, which in the end of the day was only about 2 years really fully baked Zen master. you have to understand the context, what happened and how I met Kaikyo, Sarah, Roby. I'm completely European. Child of German refugees from the Second World War out of Eastern Germany, and found my way to Zen. Because when I first opened my eyes, since today, all my thoughts were how to diminish the suffering in the world. And I was looking in many different professions. I was consulting teachers of all kinds. And finally, I really found my home in the Dharma teachings. And this started first with the leader of the German Zen Association, Lutz Tenbreul. There I spent about 12 or 13 years, and I got my full ordination as a nun through him. And then something happened when he was installed as an abbot. They needed a Sotoshu Shumucho witness. And the only person at this moment who could do this was Patricia Dine Benage from Mount Equity Zendo in Pennsylvania. So they flew this American abbess, they flew her over the ocean to Schönbergen in the very north of Germany, where she was the witness as a part of the Sotoshu Shumucho organization. And this was the moment I first set my eye on a female teacher. Up to then I practiced wholeheartedly without any thoughts. I just threw myself at the age of 47 into this practice after a long life, sort of meditations, traditions, and so on. And then Patricia Dine Benage appeared. I saw her and I thought, I can't let her go. I have somehow to follow her. So when the ceremony was over, I asked Tenryu Roshi, I asked him whether I was allowed to go to Pennsylvania, Mount Equity Zendo, and meet her there. And after some hesitation, I was allowed. I went there and I met Dine Benage Roshi and now her Dharma successor, Daishin. And then somehow something happened. It was this other continent. It was, I came from Europe, which has been strongly influenced by Taisen Deshimaru Roshi. His handwriting of Zen is very present here in Europe, especially in France and coming over. And also Tenryu Roshi is a disciple of Taisen Deshimaru Roshi. And then through Dine Benage Roshi, I met part of Japanese Soto Zen because she had spent a lot of years in Japan. She was a training teacher. And at this moment, the whole broadness, the wideness of Zen came over me. We practiced very deeply. Then they forced me to study every day in English, the literature of American male and female teachers, and it was absolutely different, and a lot of different from the things I was used in Europe. And then after visiting her several times, she proposed to me to go to Japan, to Nagoya, and spend some time in the Soto Zen Women Training Center under the direction, under the guiding of Aoyama Roshi, Shundo Aoyama Roshi in Nagoya. A lot of things had to be organized, and then I went for 3 months there to this place. And to cut a long story short, when I was there the second time, I was sitting in my study place, studying, and I turned my face to the open door, which went directly to the aisle, and someone shuffled along with a stick. And then this person turned her face to me, and we looked directly into our eyes. And I didn't have imagined to see in a Soto Zen training center such an sick and nearly person nearly not able to walk. I never had expected to see such a person. And she smiled to me, in a way. It was clear, this is another person. I can't lose her out of my eyes. And this was Kaikyo Roby. So I opened my eyes in Europe. Then America came over me. And then I went to Japan to meet Kaikyo Roby. Then she wasn't a Zen master. She was on her last steps to become a Zen master. Already then she was awfully ill. And she threw recklessly whole her existence without any hesitation. She threw herself into the way and practiced in Nagoya in Japan. Soon after this meeting, eye to eye, we didn't change words at this moment. She had to go even to hospital. She has been several times in hospital in Nagoya. She never had the idea of stopping her practice. Then I experienced her in some, how to say, difficult situations in the training center. It's a place where people meet, isn't it? People meet everywhere. In temples, there are people, human beings. But I managed to get her address. And we promised each other to stay in contact. And she told me that when I would be back from Japan, she would have moved from Florida to Brussels, Belgium. And then we were closer to each other. And then I could come from Hanover, which is 6 hours by train to Brussels, and we could meet. So I practiced there. I never heard any word from her. I came back from Japan. I looked what happened if I had received an email or something like that. And to my great astonishment, it really happened. Kaikyo Roby had been moved from Florida to Brussels. And I said, well, when can I come? I went there. And the difference between this Zodozen training center and this big house in the center of Brussels, Europe, big capital, center of the European community, couldn't be bigger. She was part of a household with 2 foster kids. And it was there a Min couple living with a Min couple. There were 2 Min. They were not married. They had foster children. And Kaikyo were living in the guest part of this big house. And I shared the guest rooms of this house with her. There was no space to sit. When we sat, my knees fit under the table of her couch. In the back was how do you say, the couch, the sofa? Yeah, chaise longue. In front of me, there was a table, and I put my knees under it, and then I sat. And I was as happy as I would have been in the biggest Hatto hall in Japan with old oak statues and I don't know what. A deep happiness filled me to put my knees under her couch table. And then we started to talk. I helped in the household. I met those Min, I met the foster children. And why I was amazed that Kaikyo, who was even more ill than ever, took care of the children, took care of those Min, took care of the household, and took care of me. And she said, whatever happens, I start here sitting and I invite people to sit with me, even if we have to crawl under the couch table. No problem. You have a place where to open your safuton, you place your cushion, you sit. Like it's on your t-shirts in Atlanta City. I looked at your shop where you write, sit still long enough, awake. I like this very much. This is somehow the style Kaikyo Roby also practiced. We practice. Then after long conversations, I had to, how to say, there was no discussion. I had to meet my teacher to tell him that I want to join Kaikyo Roby and continue the way with her. And this handwriting I met in the United States. It was not a decision against something. It was the decision for something. I didn't left something behind, but just the room was getting bigger somehow. So I feel related to all the teachers I had, and there were just doors opening, walls disappearing, and the space of Zen, the Zen space, got bigger and bigger. And Kaikyo had studied in Paris. She was a sociologue, was a PhD, and she was also a therapist. She was a great dancer when she had been healthy. And besides, Patricia Benage was a dancer as well before she came to Zen. So those were two women who were really, had a really fine, I don't know, a feeling for some kind of things. It was quite different from the Sangha I had met before. So it broadened. So I talked with my teacher, there was no problem. Sotoshu Shumuchu has no problem. A teacher change is foreseen. It's the view that a Dharma way is not taught linear, like a linear. A Dharma way is more like seen also by the Sotoshu Shumuchu, the persons I talked to, at least, might be not representative, but this is my experience. A Dharma way is like a big river, and it flows. It makes waterfalls, it makes ponds, it goes over the borders, it dries out, then it comes and it finds its way, and then before it streams maybe in a big or a small delta into the big ocean. So Sotoshu, I was officially transferred to Kaikyo Roby, and I became her disciple. I went as often as possible to Brussels and continued and deepened my practice there. And we became closer and closer. It was like two rivers floating and joining. And in this joining, there come waves and things appear. And then the river flows further on, joined. But nevertheless, it's two rivers joining, floating together, getting stronger than ever, floating together, two rivers, one stream towards the ocean. And then Kaikyo Roby became very, very ill. She had to go to Florida. And I couldn't stay in Germany. I wrote and invited, and at least her big sister, Monica, agreed that I come to Florida and live in the house of the sister and visit very ill Kaikyo. So I went there, and there we decided that Kaikyo Roby would come to Germany and give, as she was then, she had been then, by then she was fully baked Zen master with all those ceremonies which are necessary and registered in the Sotoshu Shumucho. And so being in Florida, we decided she come over and give lay ordination to parts of my Sangha. She came, she arrived, and you can see in this picture, in this book, and there is where this book starts. I don't know whether I have, I can show you. She arrived in a wheelchair at Hanover Airport, and she gave this lay ordination in Hameln, and this was her only ceremony she ever did as a Zen master, because then she fell this ill that she had to return to her family in the United States and Florida, and finally she died in after 2 years of being a Zen teacher, which is somehow not very, very sad, because she's still with us. And then I decided to publish all the texts she had written for the German part of the Sanshinji Sangha. And this is not much. So this is a very small, the texts I work with is a very small booklet, Crack the Wall, from Kaikyo Roby. It's in German and in English. And I tried to share the spirit of her in this book, but I think they are great texts, but it's not possible to share the personality. I think to learn by a teacher, you have to meet this teacher personally and practice and live with this person. Texts are very helpful for us all, but I don't think that you can really learn something about the teacher, because this transmission thing, whence Ishin, Denshin, it went without deviation from heart to heart. And as a family therapist, and even if I wouldn't have this profession, you have to see the eyes of someone directly. You have to smell the atmosphere around a person. You have to hear the breathing. You have to see the body movements. You have to see how someone is walking, standing, reciting. Then you can slowly get an impression of what is happening. So why did I publish this book anyway? It's my tombstone. This is my tombstone for Kaikyo Roby, to help that she's not forgotten. There is no grave I could put a tombstone on, and there is no monument and no place I could erect something to remember her, like her Sangha in Venezuela did. So I did this book. But what is this book really about? What do I want to share through this text with you today at the supposed beginning of a year? I would like to share the timeless part, and which appears in this book between the lines. And I would like to share the very wild part of her, the energetic, the furious, the wholehearted way. And that would fit, because one of her tasks she gave me when she was alive was I should translate the wholehearted way from Okumura Roshi with a bendoa in it. And from this bendoa, it's in between, it's been translated. It will be published next year in German. And in English, Tuttle will publish a new edition in April. So far, so good. This will be in German, published next year. In English, there will be of the wholehearted way, will appear another time in the United States by Tuttle. And why do I show you this? Because here is a title in it for this book, Crack the Wall. It's a title Kaikyo would choose from the wholehearted way. And she was wholehearted herself, recklessly, without hesitation. Vroom! This was Kaikyo's practice. She didn't care about herself, but saw what is happening, taking care for other people. And for me, she incorporated all those Sanshinji mottos, this 3 hearts, magnanimously practicing joyfully and generously. And that was Kaikyo. Even on her deathbed, when she filmed a message for me, which I brought to Hoko Kanegi's in Sanshinji to become her Dharmatic successor, as Hoko Kanegi's agreed with that. She was magnanimously, she practiced on her deathbed joyfully and caringly, attentively for all the beings in the world. And this is here inside of it. Kaikyo was so wild. Why was she so wild? She embraced all the contradictions, then wants to embrace. She embodied this embracing all contradictions. The Zen nun, the teacher, taking care for the ordinary life, building up a praxis room without having a room. This is a real mastery, the real master hands to build up a practice room without having literally a room. But you can feel it, you can see it. And then you think Kosho Uchiyama Roshi came alive, or Kodo Sawaki, persons who said you don't have to have a place, you just have a place to put a safu on. And yes, surely it's better to have a place where a lot of people can sit and meet. And is it necessary? Is it really necessary? No, it's not. So, and Kaikyo was wild because one part of her was from Venezuela. Her mother came from Venezuela and her father was an American. And she lived both. I have a little bit had the chance to meet, not really, not personally, but to meet her Sangha from South America. And even the tiny wee little bit I learned, I can tell you I love it. And even if I don't have the chance to go to South America, I invited them, and maybe it will come to a meeting in Germany if Corona and all those virus stuff has calmed down. And the other part of Kaikyo was American. But one part of her had a deep longing for Europe. She wanted to live in Europe. And when she died, she had a French passport. And she had studied in France. She had had a French teacher, and she studied and made her PhD at a French university in Paris. So she didn't care about the continents or which language she was talking or teaching. And also what was very astonishing to see her in Japan in this context, to meet her in Florida in this American context, and to see her together with her Sangha Venezuelan context, and to meet her live in Belgium. And then I understood one more time what Zen and practice means, and what means to open the hands of thought, to open the hands of thought deeply in whatever situation, and not to care about time, space, or health. And since then, not only since then, but it deepened my understanding of time. I say always, I don't celebrate New Year. I celebrate it with the trees and the mountains, and I go on the meadows and I sit outside and I celebrate it with the trees and the leaves. So do they celebrate? Sure, do they celebrate? They celebrate life. Do they celebrate New Year? Well, yes, I can't ask them. I'm very content to celebrate it with them. And it's following this teacher's thing from Kaikyo to feel really space, time, health, and even being dead or alive is not this important we always think. This is the deepest teaching from Kaikyo. And that's what you find in these stories a little bit. And crack the walls means that there is no wall. There is nothing to crack. You have to crack the idea that there is a wall and you have something to crack, and that there is time and space and a beginning and an end. There was only, you have to understand that there is recklessly practice from moment to moment. Don't hesitate. You never know what will happen the next moment. Who cares for this or that year? If it's 21 or 22 or 23 or 2050 or 1845, I don't know. Yes, we exchanged the calendars. I obediently exchanged all the calendars everywhere in my house. And do I really care that now there is 2022? No. So I have to take care of the time, because now is the time I wanted to tell you of one of the parts of the book I love most. The first part of those texts is about ordinary situations in ordinary life. Family, friends, how to live with pets, how to deal with children, how to live without having a place, how to be ill, and so on and so on. And that you have to wake up from moment to moment. There is no fixed condition you can ever reach. You can just live like a stream, streaming. May be a waterfall, be a pond, and if necessary, you dry out and then you float to the sky like a real unsui. You float a little bit around on the sky and then your water comes down again. And this is all in those texts in the first part. The second part, there is an article she wrote because there was the idea Buddhism Actuell, this is a German newspaper, a German magazine for Buddhists in Germany, would publish that in the long version. But then somehow it didn't fit into their plans. It never was published in Germany. But there was this wonderful article, which I love very much. So I decided to take it here in this book. And it's about, it's in English, I don't want you, here, now I found the picture. This is the picture Kaikyo, Sarah Roby traveled. You can see her in a wheelchair arriving at Hanover Airport. No hindrance big enough for her not to solve. And there in the second part, she writes about let me look it up, the teacher-disciple relationship and other considerations related to lineage and tradition in the form of answer and question. And to share the background of this text, what all the texts transport in this book is the following. It describes the teachers we meet and what she thinks about teachers. It's a very short passage. It's found on page 92. I read it, it's not long. I hope you can understand me clear enough. What is a teacher? Teachers come in all types of personalities, unable to be defined by conventional standards. A teacher is one who has deeply and with passion engaged life wholeheartedly in every aspect, long before becoming a teacher. Someone with no fear of living life and its consequences. It does not mean it will literally jump out of a cliff, but it has done so figuratively. A teacher is someone who has made something significant for him or herself with whatever life gave him or her. It was waking up life through every thought and action. A person considered to be a teacher most of the times, and now here it comes, does not conform with the system, the structures, the institutions. They break them down because it constrains the life force that pushed them forward, even when they may not know where they are going or how to get there. Those original sentences of Kaikyo show you this was a person without any, like in the Heart Sutra, no fear, no hindrances, just having in her mind the well-being of all beings. She continues, this was the case for Gautama, the future Buddha. He did not intend to create a religion. His personal quest for the truth of existence took him to the edges of every praxis he engaged in, to the point of life and death. And when she wrote this, and I remembered the situation in Nagoya, when she was in hospital and nearly died because she stayed there in Japan and didn't want to go back, I thought she really was prepared to die for this practice. And sometimes I thought, if she had gone too far and if she could have lived, if she didn't have had exhausted herself like this. But on the other hand, it wouldn't have been Kaikyo, okay? So it's completely okay the way it went. And that, now she continues, that energy change opened doors and illuminated the universe for many others to follow and look into their own realization through his broad wisdom and enlightenment. Others created Buddhism, not Gautama himself. Gautama found through his life a universal way to understand suffering and its causes. He offered it to whomever could make use of it as a remedy to the illnesses that come with living. Kaikyo was deadly ill, but what she transports through her texts and her personal appearance was that she's healed. She was healed, even dying under wild circumstances. You could feel that she was healed by this teaching, by the Dharma teachings, like you recited some minutes before. I took refuge in the Dharma, I took refuge in the Sangha, I took refuge in Buddha, like we did before. I joined you in the ceremony. And then Buddha, his realization was his personal, unconditioned, and generous gift to all of us. It is for us to take it or leave it. This is the part I wanted to quote because it shows the unconditionedness and the absolute generosity to give your existence, your practice, unconditioned. Will say, ordained or not, teacher or not, healthy or not, young or old, dying or living, whatever, unconditioned. It's for us to feel healed, to get the healing, to follow the healing, to practice this healing way. And this so-called Buddhism is often connected with oh, all life is suffering. And people get somehow very grave and their voice get lower. But what Kaikyo showed that emotions belong to a full mature adult. They are antennas. A cosmic bodhisattva uses everything he has to help the beings, to help all beings. And emotions are just one means to get the notion what happens or how to help. But you don't let yourself grip by the emotions. So in those texts, you find a wild Kaikyo with a lot of temperament, South America. If you could hear her laughing, it shook the house. It shook the house when this little tiny ill person started to laugh, but she was not gripped by it. Nothing could push her out of her practice way. And she was so generous to share even her health with us, to share it consequently. So when she left, the last moment I saw her alive was at Hanover Airport. She came with a wheelchair. Then we took care of her, and she left standing. And then it took its way. But what she transmitted is unconditioned Dharma joy. And I think to start the so-called, conventionally start a new year, but sharing this unconditioned Dharma joy, that is something which would have filled Kaikyo with a lot of joy. You know, Kaikyo wanted to distribute and heal with Dharma joy. Even if she practiced with a strictness and a consequence, you wouldn't believe if you wouldn't have seen it. And this is a message, this Dharma joy with the practice, and then share it with everybody. And this is why I did this book. Okay, this is why this book exists. And we don't even have to read it. It's just about practicing and smile and don't stop and go on. Yeah. Okay, I wanted to make a stop here because you told me it's then question and answer.
Yes, thank you so much, Sensei. Y'all hear me okay?
I can hear you, yes, a little bit echo, a little bit strong echo.
Is that better?
Yeah,
Yes.
just
Awesome. Again, Kaikyo Sensei, thank you so much for your wisdom. Even though you said that you have to know and look into your teacher's eyes, I feel the energy and the love that you are resonating with your teacher. So thank you for sharing that with us. And now we're going to open it up for questions, folks, either in the Zendo or I will ask for either Hojo or Shinjin if they have any comments initially. And then we'll open it up to everyone else as usual for questions. So, Hojo Sensei.
Thank you, Sensei. Your talk reminded me very much of Matsuoka Roshi, my root teacher. He was the same way, and I visited him when he was in decline. And he was in a little four-wheel scooter chair, like you put a child in, in a diaper, and he was in an extended care facility. But nothing had changed at all in his mind. Everything, his body was changing, everything was changing, but he was the same, and right to the last moment. And when Akiba Roshi somebody mentioned Matsuoka Roshi to Akiba Roshi, he said, "Oh, great ki, strong ki." And Sensei used to say, Zen keeps the men younger and the women more beautiful.
Oh, yeah. I hope the other way around as well. I think it works both ways.
Same difference, I think.
Same difference, yeah. And I think this is the greatest thing we can share as teachers, as teacher persons, as so-called teacher persons. Everybody can teach someone, yeah. That we don't care with those bodies. Slowly, yeah. How do you say? Shutting down, yeah. Getting slowly having diseases. It doesn't change the practice. It doesn't change the practice. And it takes any fear of death or of feeling, oh, I'm getting older. Oh no, another zero before my age. I know so many, as a family therapist, I know so many people, also young people with anxieties concerning the future. All those, well, I admit a lot of men as well, but mostly it's women looking into the mirror, saying, oh, I got here, and what can I do, and my hair, and this and that. And they live their life with a lot of complexes and anxieties, and this is absolutely not necessary. And it's a pity and it's a shame if you give this gift of life, you hinder yourself by such thoughts. They belong to life, okay. Just think them if you want to. Do whatever and put cream and whatever you want. Who will tell you not to do so? Nobody. But the younger just should pay attention to what is really important in life. And you can watch those, like your Roshi said, you can watch those great teachers, what they live for us on their deathbed in their old age. They are great examples for us. And I slowly, I belong to them. Yeah, I'm not so young anymore. I'm joining in the group of the aging persons.
We're so happy about that. Shinjin Sensei? Go ahead, I'm sorry. Shinjin Sensei, anything? Then I see you, Bill. Katsuru.
Thank you so much for such a wonderful talk. It's amazing that you've had the opportunity to study at so many places with so many different teachers. I think that's fantastic. But thank you very much for coming and speaking with us. And hopefully we'll meet in person someday.
Yes, I'm nearly sure that this will be the case. You know, what I learned that is you have to see places. Yes, we stay to a tradition. I'm now in a certain tradition, a Dharma teacher, and this tradition is my tradition, no doubt. And on the other hand, the human brain works. It tries always to create bubbles. Yeah, it creates always, and then you live in this bubble and you think this bubble is the whole world. So to meet practitioners, for example, with you in Atlanta, I was amazed, stunned, and very inspired by your Buddha altar when I saw it first. You know, when I saw your Zendo, when I saw the paintings on your wall, when I saw your artwork, that even just through this opportunity to see you virtually into your Zendo inspired me a lot. You know, so it's mutual. You are a gift to me. Yeah, I can say that without fishing for compliments. Yeah. Oh, Lindy.
Let me get, before I get Lindy, let me get Katsuru because he had his hand up, and then I will go to Lindy. Is that okay? Thank you.
Good morning, Kyoku Sensei. Thank you for your talk. You mentioned towards the beginning a difference between American and European Zen. Could you elaborate a little bit?
Yes, in my feeling, it's a long time ago. And things change here as well. But maybe it's the country. It's another handwriting. Tyson Deshimaru Roshi. Yes, he was a certain personality. But the teachers who went to America, they met another population. They met another culture. Also, there are other, how do you say? I don't want to open another barrel front, or how do you say it? But there were other women practicing. You know, it was funny, but when I saw this Abbess Patricia Dine Benage from Mount Equity Zeno, it was the first time I saw a female teacher really in a high position. And the American women and the American men are somehow, I think they are more, they have more strong voices. I have the idea, but that's just an idea and maybe a fat illusion, okay? That the European women are a little bit more quiet. They're more, they don't, it's not, there is a bigger variety in the United States, in my opinion. I haven't found, that's why I'm translating American texts into German to open up the variety.
Thank you for your answer. Thank you.
Yes, and on Lindy's computer, please introduce yourself.
I did.
Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yep, I got
Yes.
you.
Okay. Guten Abend and Dankeschön.
Oh,
I'm busy.
guten Abend.
I am just overwhelmed with delight at your talk. Hearing your reflections on your teacher, what a wonderful tribute, and just your descriptions of your experience with the practice in Dharma. You're like, everything coming out of your mouth is like poetic prose. You're just wonderfully descriptive to listen to, and I'm inspired by your observations of women teachers, and I could just feel your joy emanating through, and I appreciate your what you shared about your teacher, and the phrase that you spoke, nothing could push her out of her practice way. I think that's going to be my mantra for a little while. You made a comment, I think you said, open the hands of thought deeply. And that really struck me. And I wonder if you could comment and elaborate on that a little bit.
Yes, yes. You know that there is a book, Opening the Hands of Thought, from Kosho Uchiyama Roshi, is the handbook of Shohaku Uchiyama Roshi. No, Uchiyama Roshi. I mixed the two. Shohaku Okumura Roshi. And I have to say, if I hadn't met through Kaikyo Okumura Roshi from Sanshinji and Hoko Carnegie's, his Dharma successor, this world wouldn't have opened for me because Kaikyo died, but she transmitted me to Sanshinji in Bloomington, Indiana. Yeah, every day I'm doing sampai that I met those that my Dharma river streamed to this direction. Nevertheless, I know that everywhere there are great teachers. This doesn't mean, yes. So opening the hand of thought is something, a book from a teacher, from the teacher of Shohaku Okumura Roshi. It will be translated also into German. And it means that if you don't hold anything, the whole universe has place into it. Yeah. If you grab something, if you have something in your hands, then you can take nothing else. So if you have Buddhism in your hands, you have Buddhism in your hands, and you make Buddhism to an object, and the Dharma teaching, and Buddha, it becomes an object, and Zazen, and your practice becomes an object which you grab. What you do by opening the hands of thought, you hold nothing. And when I say nothing, I mean nothing, even nothing, nothing. Nothing, nothing, nothing. Opening the hands of thought means letting go everything. Shinjin Datsuraku, like Dogen Zenji said. Opening the hands of thought means the same moment you open the hands of thought, the whole universe flows through your hands. And this you can't describe. You can't describe the experience of universe floating through your opened hands. And this is why everywhere Zen masters inspire us like Daido Lori, the Zen creativity book, to find a way to express yourself with arts. Also, this is why I was by your center so inspired to see this artwork, which I found on your walls and on the website, and also in the beautiful t-shirts. And in Sanshinji, it's also Misaki Kido who illustrates our newsletter from Sanshinji. And because of this opening the hands of thought and letting everything go, even Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, refuge, everything. Opening the hand of thought means wake up. You grab nothing. This means opening the hand of thought. You have to sit. Then there is nothing to do. Even nothing to do is to do. The hands open, Zazen does Zazen, and then this universe is floating. And this is no time, is no space. There is no time and no space because these categories of time and space, this is Zazen. This is letting drop body and mind. This is Dogen Zenji. That's why I love Dogen Zenji together with Kaikyo Roby. I love Dogen Zenji. Dogen Zenji teaches us that. Shinjin Datsuraku. Like this. Okay?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you for your teaching, Sensei. Let me open into the Zendo. Any questions, comments? All right, and Kyokyo Sensei, I just want to say, our teacher, Hojo, Michael Elliston, the art that you see comes from him. And that's part of the lineage that he is leaving us in creativity. He's really expressing the practice through that. So we are so grateful to have that as a part of the lineage that we have here in Atlanta. So that and music and so much more. But again, we appreciate the comment there, and it actually that you can actually translate it on in the video. That's great. So thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
That.
Yes. Yeah, this is really great. This is yeah, and I think we have we have to open us, and it's what we create in expressing ourselves in this art. It doesn't have necessarily beautiful. And when you see a master of those arts, really you can say this is great, and it shouldn't give you complexes not to try it yourself, because what you do is beyond any aesthetic scheme. You open the hands of thought, you do something, and it's the Dharma you express, and it can't be judged by average, normal measurements. So I learned also during my training in Japan, I learned to start with sumi-e, and I with passion. I do it badly, but I do it with passion. The Dharma flows out of my little drawings and what I try. And nobody cares, but when I see this, I feel that when I draw it and I open the hands while drawing, then you don't do it for a result. It's like Zazen. You don't do it to reach, to attain a result. You do it musho toko, completely. You let the Dharma flow, and then is this unconditioned Dharma joy floating. You let drop body of mind, and this unconditionedness, Buddha's unconditionedness is filling. And you can just die on your cushion, because if this little creepy eye is dying on the cushion, the universal eye, the same moment, there is no deep hole you are falling into it. There is this universal self filling yourself, if I may say so today. And then you give expression to this with the wholeness of your life, in whatever condition you are, and in whatever your living conditions are. And then we help each other. We to stress, to let our uniqueness blossom. There's one interesting point I might mention. What I met at Sanshinji was quite striking, was that in this tradition, everybody sits with the face to the wall. Okumura Roshi himself, he never sits with the face to the room. There's no kyosaku. There's just sitting, and we sit 50 minutes, and it's a sort of Antaiji style sitting. And I'm an old woman, but I experienced that I can do those Sanshinji style sittings because it's not my body who's sitting. It's if the Dharma is sitting in this posture, it's somehow universe sitting, and you don't have to sit. I sit. Something, not an object. Something is sitting. Life energy is sitting. Like Koun Ejo said, there's only this, in the end, this little blue flame of life energy on the cushion. And not everybody likes this. When I was working in jail, I had to turn my face to the young men, because you couldn't let them out of your eyes. You had always to see what they were doing or planning. But I have to admit, after my training in Europe, it was quite funny to meet a tradition where nobody looks during Zazen what you are doing. It was something opening the hands of thought in extreme, to be completely alone. Even no kyosaku man behind me, woman behind me, no teacher looking, no, there were no one going around, and so on. I was grown up with this person's looking at me. I don't care. I don't care if someone's looking at me. But it made a difference for me. It's not for everybody. I just wanted to say this is one point in this tradition at Sanshinji, that everybody turns to the wall, even the teachers. Everybody. And no kyosaku. I can give kyosaku. I learned it, and I did it, and I received it. But now my kyosaku is enveloped, is wrapped in and we don't use it. But yeah.
Hojo.
Yeah, we're still maintaining the tradition of the Kyosaku.
Mm-hmm.
Matsuoka Roshi
Mm-hmm.
gave 2 talks on it. 2 chapters of his collected talks deal with Kyosaku. And the first edition of his early talks from the 60s into the 80s is titled the Kyosaku.
Mhm.
So, but it's by choice. You know, people
Mhm.
can request it or
Mhm.
not, and so forth.
Mhm.
I understand in Japan, I may be in Rinzai temples. It's not a choice. They just
Mhm.
come around and whack you with a stick. I asked Okamura Roshi about that one time, and I said, Matsuoka said, it helps wake you up.
Mhm.
And Okamura looked me in the eye and he said, that's your responsibility. So you have to decide for yourself whether
Mhm.
Okamura Roshi or Matsuoka
Mhm.
Roshi is the more
Mhm.
compassionate.
Mhm.
Which one?
Yes. Yeah. And I teach it. If people want to learn it, I teach them. Yeah. I let them feel they can try on me, and I give them Kyosaku. Yeah. And
Yep.
then so that they get the feeling, and then they can choose whether at their places when they are skilled. Not everybody can be allowed to do Kyosaku. It's something you have to be very clear-minded.
Yep.
Not with a notion of punishment or it has really to give. But it's very effectful as a physios. I'm also a physiotherapist, and to work with handicapped people, sometimes if they hypotone, you set on the muscle belly, you set sharp to heighten the tonus, and Kyosaku can be very helpful. And so I think people, it's helpful to know that it exists and to use it. I teach it also how to use it if someone wants.
Sure.
At the moment, I wouldn't use it in the practice place right now. Yeah, but I understand perfectly that it's helpful. Yeah.
We just describe it as a kind of shiatsu, like
Yeah.
Matsuoka would say it blows stress out of your body and thoughts out of your mind.
Yes, it does. Definitely. I've experienced it. And so this is another great example, the broadness of Zen and how people, you're always on this path, offers you whatever is helpful to sit and practice. So we shouldn't judge too quickly what is helpful for the practice or not. And at the moment, I'm translating the book Faces of Compassion by Taigen Leighton. You know him. I met him only in the United States. You know, maybe you know him because you work
Good friend.
together. Yeah. Oh, he's a friend. Look, yeah. Now it will come next year. It will be in the German language, and there also Taigen Leighton describes a cosmic bodhisattva. Bodhisattvas use whatever is helpful to help beings and to diminish suffering. And we don't have to reject anything which could possibly help and support sentient or non-sentient being. And this is I like this book from Taigen Leighton very much. Also the drawings of Mayumi Oda. Yeah, Dain Benash Roshi loved Mayumi Oda. Kaikyo loved Mayumi Oda's paintings. I never saw in Europe a painting of Mayumi Oda, and nobody showed me. I met those paintings only when I came to America, to the United States, to learn more about this Zen art.
Just one more point on the Kyosaku. Matsuoka Roshi called it the blow of compassion.
The blow, yeah.
Blow of compassion. So if somebody requests it and you refuse to strike them, you would not be compassionate. And you take on the karma of striking them.
Yeah, Taisen Deshimaru Roshi said it's the same.
Yep.
He said it's the same, and those Kyosakus are most beautiful artwork themselves, with wooden sculptures with a calligraphy on it, and it shows the mind which the Kyosaku wants to transport. Yeah. So we have those teachers, and one are fierce, and one are like this, and one doesn't speak at all. Some are just pointing to the sky, and so, we have all this broadness, and it's the offering and a gift to us to go our way and to help us to practice recklessly. We have no excuse not to practice recklessly, because on this way, of this Zen way, we get and find and get everything which is helpful to practice. We just have to open our eyes and see and to follow the energy of our life stream. The energy of our life streams leads us. And sometimes it's Kyusaku. For 13 years it was Kyusaku. Now it's a little bit less Kyusaku. No idea where the stream will continue. There is no aim. This is also, Lindy, one sign of opening the hands of thought. No aim, no attaining, no aim, no purpose, no mission. Just and practice. And then comes this artwork. I'm doing a Buddha statue. I started to work with wood. I'm doing with the help of a wood master of wood. I'm doing a Buddha statue. I never worked with wood, but what comes out of it will be the Buddha statue of this practice place I'm creating now as a relatively fresh Zen master, if you want to see it like that. And it will be just what it is, beyond any aesthetical judgment. Yeah, free. Free, but with precepts. Not that you mean we do what I do what I want. Opening the hand of thought is automatically the precepts are carrying you.
Yep.
Yes.
I'm going to call any additional questions, comments for Sensei? Kyoku, I do have one comment. I just wanted to say, just with you speaking about your teacher, I felt the resiliency of her practice in every situation you talked about, whether she was healthy, whether she was sick, especially when you were talking about when she was in that, she was staying with the gentleman that had the children, and then you came and she was able to take care of you. I really feel like that really spoke to her spirit and the essence of the Dharma working through. And it's and her laughter that you said how she was even when she was ill, it filled the house. So I, through your words and just through you're continuously transmitting that energy. It's just that word resiliency came to me, and I'm so grateful that you were able to capture some of the essence of her in the writing. In the book. So I'm so grateful for you continuing to carry that with you.
Yes. I will. I will. Yes. And it's great that we have now this means with this computers that I could be with you in Atlanta and get your vibrations here over to Germany. And I will share now, no one of my Sangha is here. Yeah, you know, but I will share the spirit of Atlanta. I will share it with them.
And just know that we will have this recorded, and I'll send you the link as well so you can share with your Sangha. Hoko wanted to have it as well because she's speaking right now, but she couldn't attend. So we'll make sure that's shared more broadly.
Yeah, thank you, Fusatsu. And we see each other as a monthly meetings, I think.
That's right.
Yeah, great. So I think we are completely on time.
Yeah, we're good. Last call for any questions. I just want to give, this is such a great opportunity. Any last call? Yes.
Yeah, it's on. Okay. Hello, Kyoku Sensei. My name is Pearl, and I'm a new resident here at the center. I really appreciate your talk, especially of your talk about your teacher, sick and still practicing. And it really made me remember my teacher who also passed in April last year. And he was in his sick bed about a week before he died. He was kind of in and out consciousness. And the last day that he was still in consciousness for a longer period of time, he was reading a poem by his master teacher. And that poem is about life is a dream. and reminding us to remember impermanence and letting go and return back to our true nature. And he read that poem for 2 hours with us, nonstop. And the poem was just like very short, simple, 8 lines, but he kept reading, repeating it again and again for 2 hours, and smiling and having a great joy with us. And after that, he fall into unconsciousness, in and out for a long time. About a week later, he died. And it just made me remember how great teachers, still practicing until the last minutes of their life. And I really appreciate how you from German and you share your Dharma to us, and especially on Zoom, is kind of all over the world that anyone can access to. And it's like a Dharma rain, like Dharma rain go everywhere. And like water, we all share that, even though we're all over. And you remind us of this stream from everywhere coming back to one source. And that source is from water.
Yes.
Yeah. So I want to say very grateful and thank you so much for your sharing of that Dharma drain today.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So you know what is astonishing? Thank you for sharing this. And I think this Dharma talk has taken a more wonderful turn than I had imagined, because now as it's not honoring Kaikyo or talking about Kaikyo, but now at the beginning of this year, we all showed our respect to all of our teachers we experienced, yeah, and we let all those teachers who gave their life for the practice, yeah, we helped them to stay alive through this Dharma talk. Now we remembered them. You remembered your teacher, you Sensei remembered your teacher, I remembered Kaikyo, and all the living teachers as well. So it is a respect to all people, ordained or not, besides ordained or not, who share the Dharma practice fully, yeah, and it doesn't stop with their going into the great, how do you say, turning. Wir sagen die große Verwandlung in Deutsch, into the great transformation. It just doesn't stop. This is so important, and our practice keeps them alive, their teachings and their mind and their spirit. And so it's not today, it's not only about Kaikyo. Kaikyo is only one of them, and there is no piece of paper fits between Kaikyo and all the other deceased teachers. They belong together, and they stream their generosity upon us, and we feel it. That's why we remember it at this moment. We talk about Kaikyo, every one of us remembers what he experienced with those great teachers who guided us and are still guiding us. Great, wonderful start into into the coming period of calendars. Yeah, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Again, Kaikyo Sensei, thank you so very much for your time, your energy, your teaching, your Dharma, and what you're carrying. We are so grateful, even though that it's timeless, but we're so grateful that you were our guest speaker at the beginning of this calendar year. And just a few announcements as usual. I will also put the link, again, as always, we're so grateful for those that are consistent contributors, as well as I will put the link on if folks would feel so led to make some dana to Kaikyo for her talk. We really appreciate that, and she supports her sangha as well. Upcoming things for this week, we do have Just Sit Saturday. That's our longer day sit. That's online. If you're a member of the sangha, or if we are known to the sangha, then we're continuing to keep that online mostly. So please check that out. And as always, there's daily opportunities to sit and practice and can study the Dharma. So we can invite you to do that. But again, if you are a consistent contributor, we are so grateful, and we are thankful that you continue to do that. If you're not, we'd ask that you consider to become a consistent contributor, because we are supporting our center, our teachers, and again, the propagation of Zen here and online. Again, thank you so much for your practice and your presence. And again, please remind me to do the opening verse. I had so much going on this morning, so I apologize that we did not get the opening verse done, but we will definitely do the closing verses. So Suki, if you will ring the bell for us, we will bring everything to a close. But again, everyone, thank you so much. Again, Kyoku Sensei, thank you so much for your presence and your practice.
Beings are numberless.
Numberless.
I vow to free them. Illusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. Karma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. The Buddha way is unsurpassable. I vow to realize it. Beings are numberless. I vow to see them. Inexhaustible. I vow to end them. Karma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. The way is unsurpassable. I vow to realize it. Being numberless. I vow to free them. I vow to enter them. The Buddhas are boundless. I vow to enter them. The Buddha way is unsurpassable. I vow to realize it.
Again, thank you everybody for your practice and your presence. Again, we'll have this recording available. Kyoku Sensei, again, thank you so much for your practice and your presence, and we're so grateful that you shared it today with us. Everybody have a safe and happy new year, and the recording will be available. That's all.
Bye.